Very cute. I just dropped this 2-hour process tutorial for free. We're celebrating 10 years on Patreon, so I wanted to do one last thing. Senior year, because we're graduating. I've been working on this book and these characters and projects for years, so it's finally coming out this year. Inside these Patreon videos, it's more than just tutorials. It's like process, tips and tricks, and something I like to call art journey. To me, art is more than just about technique. It's about mindset, career decisions, getting through creative blocks, all the stuff I had to learn from my mentors and peers, and honestly, my own mistakes. And I've recorded the process for a lot of the pieces, and I just wanted to drop this one for free so you guys can get a taste of what it is. And a new free perk, you can actually get your name in the credits of the animation as a thank you. And if you are already a patron, we sent you this free bonus tutorial, so check your inbox. And for the first time, we've turned on a free trial. For some reason, when I say free trial, it reminds me of the AOL disc days where they send like this free trial disc in the mail. I don't know if you guys are old enough for that. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. Hope you learned something new, and I'll see you guys later. Bye. Hey everyone, welcome back to Patreon and welcome to the first video of senior year. Yeah, I'm super excited, but also I'm feeling a lot right now because this is potentially my last Patreon chapter. And it's kind of wild to say it out loud. I am coming up on 10, 11 years. I've made over 220 tutorials. I have never missed a month. Holy, it's the longest 9 to 5 I've ever had. But yeah, we have quite a bit of new people, and so I'm gonna give you a rundown on how it works if you're brand new. So in every single tutorial video, I'm gonna show you my process, my tips and tricks, the tools I'm using, and more than anything, I wanna show you what I'm thinking while I'm making it. So it's not just step by step, but the way of thinking behind it. Like how do you approach a blank canvas? How do you decide what to commit to? How do you know what feels right? And so it's never just like a, here's the finished painting, copy this step by step, but it's more like, I have a goal, an intention of what I want to achieve. I want it to feel like this, and here's what I'm noticing as I go through this, and here's how I'm making decisions in real time. So this whole video is just an extension of that, just an open, unfiltered process. In addition to that, every video tutorial will also have an art journey section. I find this super helpful because I think you can find step by step anywhere, but I want to give you guys my experience from the last 15 years, 17 years of making digital art, my time in the industry, career advice, portfolio advice, anything to help you guys on your art journey. I find this combo super helpful because for me, being an artist is not just about drawing. Like, yes, you can learn anatomy, lighting, rendering, and all that stuff, and I will always try to help with that. The part that actually defines your path is everything around the drawing itself, right? Like your mindset, your confidence, your relationship with your work, even burnout, comparison, doubt, social media, all of that. And a lot of that stuff doesn't really show up on the canvas, but it shows up in your life. After doing this for a long time, I think more and more I realize that most of what I've learned isn't nothing to do with just technique. It's more about how you think when you're not sure, how you keep going when things feel unclear, how to navigate and deal with your own expectations of yourself. I find this combo super helpful because not only you get practical tips and tricks, but also maybe some mental frameworks to exist and be an artist in today's world, because it's freaking hard and it's always changing. And for this video's art journey topic, I've been realizing lately that intention is literally your whole entire life. Like, I think nowadays there's just so much bombardment of content and noise, right? Everyone is a content creator, and it's kind of pulling your emotion in every single direction, pulling your attention everywhere. Like, attention is currency, and these big companies know that. And you end up feeling exhausted, burnt out, or even emotionally dysregulated. I mean, I definitely feel that. And because of that, I do want to share some of my thoughts and a few things I have been doing that's been helping me on how to slowly bring your attention back on your own path, back to the things that actually help bring you joy and what you actually want to be working on, and learning how to stay a little more present with yourself, with your work, and your own journey. It's like I'll sit down thinking I'm ready to work, and then my attention is still super scattered. and I'm trying to focus, but I'm thinking about that reel my friend sent me, or something that happened yesterday, a conflict with my mom, or a random thought about when I was 10, someone made fun of me. It's just a whole bunch of random stuff, right? And it kind of takes your attention away from what you want to be working on. So I've been practicing some very simple things on how to just gently bring my attention back, not forcing it, not judging it, not being like, why am I like this? But just noticing it and slowly bring it back to what I actually want to do. But yeah, so let's talk about this piece. So this one is part of my new book, and it's a story piece, so I don't want to reveal too much yet. But right now, I'm basically just trying to find the emotional direction of it, right? The mood. I'm not really committed to anything visually yet, just trying to get the general presence, very soft brushes, very airbrushy, just trying to see what the atmosphere wants to be. And I think I almost start like this, right? Because if I rush into detail too early, then it usually ends up feeling off later when I haven't thought about this kind of overall feeling when someone first experiences my piece. Like, you can render something really well technically, but if the foundation emotion isn't right, you kind of feel it the whole entire time, and you can't really explain why. And so you'll see this character here, Journey. I revealed him recently, and he's kind of my self-insert character. Over time, he's actually become something else, like more of a guide through this world and story that I'm making. And I think on a deeper level, he kind of represents that inner part of you that just keeps showing up. Like your inner child in a way. That version of you that's curious, still experimenting, still reacting to things emotionally before logically. And yeah, it actually feels really nice to talk about this openly because I've been working on this book for ever, right? 5 years, which is a long time when I think about it. That's like a whole kindergarten person. I don't have the proper English skills, but yeah, most of it has been pretty quiet, me kind of building it in the background, trying to figure it out, even restarting whole section, because for an artist, if you give them a deadline, they will work all the way to that deadline. And so I just turned in this book in February. My publisher, 3 Total, where's the book? And I'm trying to get more time because I love this. I really believe in this. I really align with it. I really stand by it. I think it's some of my best work. Yeah, and that's why I feel this whole senior year event feels super important, because I'm just not showing final pieces, but more the structure behind it, the story behind it, the thinking and emotional reasoning behind it. And this specific piece is about transformation, but not the clean, cinematic version of transformation, not the version where everything just clicks and you suddenly level up. I think real transformation is way more chaotic than that. It's usually uncomfortable and unclear. You're in this space where you're letting go parts of yourself, but you don't know fully what's replacing them yet. And sometimes those parts you're letting go of are actually things you really liked, or things that made you feel safe, or things that defined you for a long time. So it's not just growth, but also loss at the same time. And that's a really strange emotional mix to sit inside of. So I wanted to capture that feeling here, like being in the middle of it, not after it's resolved, but right when you're still in the uncertainty of it, almost like being in the eye of the storm, where everything around you is moving, but you're kind of just suspended in it, just trying to understand what's even happening, right? And that's where this water came in as a theme, because water just kind of naturally feels like that to me. It shifts, it flows. And there's this character holding on to Journey that represents transformation. And I want to make sure that she didn't feel too evil, right? Transformation it's not evil, but I wanted to depict transformation in this more realistic way. Swirling with all the parts of yourself that you don't fully understand yet. Your fear, your dream, your memories, your future ideas, all existing in the same space. So right now, I'm just experimenting with everything, right? Perspective, color, texture, just trying to see what supports that feeling. And I feel like this stage is something people tend to rush, right? Because it doesn't look like true progress yet. I'm just taking my time. But honestly, this is where a lot of the real decisions are actually happening, even if it doesn't look like it from the outside. So I try to stay in it a little longer than it feels comfortable, just trying things, undoing them, trying again, waiting for those small moments where something clicks. And when something does click, you don't really know why it works, but you can actually feel it immediately, right, in your heart. And so right now, I am just using a lasso tool to separate her on a separate layer, making a selection because I like to work as cleanly as possible. I'm a bit of a chaotic painter. I love to just like this piece, but I've learned through professional work and through the pipeline that try to have some organization. But yeah, I have her on a separate layer now, and I'm trying to find that shade of pigment for her skin to match with everything, but still I want to make her pop, right? And so I'm building this out more, and I'm gonna slowly just have fun with this like hurricane eye of the storm feeling, because when you're right in the center, things are pretty violent, right? And so I'm just kind of experimenting right now with this vortex, this torrent of water mixed with shadow, mixed with fog, almost wrapping inward like a cocoon. And compositionally, I'm just trying to keep everything leading toward that center, because that's where the emotional moment of the piece is. That's where I want the viewer to look and stay, on that focal point, on that eye of the storm. One of my objectives here is to try and mix all those elements, right? There is kind of like this foggy water with the shadow mixed with that lighter sea teal. And so I need it to look pretty seamless. That's why I'm taking my time and being so kind of soft about it. Being careful, things are very kind of grayed out right now because I can always add contrast, right? That's easy. Like right now, I am kind of using curve and levels here to just darken the piece a little more. Ooh, okay, and now I'm going to experiment a little bit with some photos that I've collected. All these images here are from Unsplash. I have an account there. This isn't a paid promotion or anything like that. This is just what I use. I'm going to put this image on top and trying to match the perspective. Before this, I spent a lot of time gathering some really cool inspiration or really cool images that evoke the feeling or the look that I was going for, or maybe I can use parts of the image to kind of like assist the narrative of what I want to do. And Unsplash is basically a website that has royalty-free images, and you can use them for reference or creative work, depending on the license or membership. I think it's great. I've been using it for the last few years, and they state that all these images here on the site are human-made. And I just wanted to be pretty clear about that, because I know the current landscape on things are pretty turbulent, with reference, AI, and all of that. So yeah, I spent some time collecting references here to help assist my piece. Yeah, and this photo here, specifically, is like a puddle or a drop in the water, a swirly little thing. So you'll see me experiment with a couple of these. I'm bringing these images onto my canvas, and I will change the blending mode. Cool, boom, ooh, that's sick. Yeah, I'm like liking this feeling, trying my best to kind of use it, but if it's not working, I don't want to force it. But yeah, I am changing these blending modes. I'll go to either like overlay, soft light, hard light even, linear light, color dodge. Yeah, I think it looks pretty solid, right? And you can see how it immediately kind of moves the piece forward. I spent quite a bit some time working on that emotional backbone, really softly getting the colors and that feeling just right. And so any experimentation that I add on top of it will be amplified. And right now I opened Filter Gallery. Your program probably has something similar. I think CSP has like a collection of filters. I'm personally using Photoshop, and they've had like the same legacy filter gallery for 2 decades, probably. Like, I think these filters here existed in the Photoshop from 15, 20 years ago. I could be wrong, but ever since I've used Photoshop, I've seen these filters, which is crazy. And right now I'm just going through messing it up. Maybe there's a cool, ooh, like that, where it separates into, ooh, boom. Awesome. Yeah, so again, I just really love to experiment with the program, seeing what I can kind of mess up and kind of massage and extract. Just having some fun creating, right? There's no singular right way of creating. It's all up to you and what kind of piques your interest. And so there I was just kind of like seeing what catches my eye. And something did catch my eye and I committed to it. 90% of the time, it looks ugly. I just got lucky here. I think I use posterize, so it makes everything look a little more like a poster and graphic and more simplified, which is great. So I kind of subtracted the amount of colors that was on it, and it helped have a more graphic feel, which is perfect for what I'm going for. Yeah, and a quick tip about kind of collecting and finding reference images. Try to go outside the box. They don't need to be literal, like here. As you see from my folder that I opened back up, you saw some space imagery, right? Because when you're up in orbit, you kind of see these crazy storm-like patterns, like an eye of an hurricane, and so I wanted some of that texture as well. Dang, this is so cool. Yeah, I'm trying to see how much of that I want to commit to, right? I'm like doubling up on the effect so it has more potency. Maybe I can change the blending mode on the second layer, right? So I'm constantly I'm unsure because, you know, when something great happens, sometimes you question it, right? Like, ooh, should it be this easy, right? And so I'm kind of carefully taking my time, trying to remember my objective and my intention, still letting my excitement of the results here of my experimentation have an input, but I'm finding that delicate balance between just the whole process of it. You'll see me do this a lot because I never want to stagnate the energy too quickly. I want to keep my eyes fresh, especially in the beginning stage, because I want to stay experimental. I'm still discovering things. I'm still reacting to what I'm seeing. Yeah, I think right now I'm kind of stuck in that interesting phase where it looks good. So I'm almost too scared to touch it because there are so many directions I could take it in. And that's always the tension, right? When something comes together too quickly, you start to wonder if there's like a better version one step away. So I'm going back and forth. Do I commit to this? Do I keep exploring? And I think just the part of making art. Not everything feels certain right away. Sometimes you just have to sit in that uncertainty for a bit. Yeah, at the same time, it still matches the mood what I was going for initially, shadow and water. And you can already see that starting to show through, even with that darker shape on top. It kind of feels like a shadowy hand, like a shadow forming, right? I'm just building this out more visually, this idea, because this character has like shadow-like hands that kind of wrap around her. One of my inspirations for this actually was Gaara from Naruto. You know how he had the protective sand layer, right? I think as a kid, I thought that was the coolest thing. And I think that idea still has like stuck with me. And so this character here has something similar. These shadowy hands that wrap around her like a cocoon, almost like a protective mechanism, but also it's part of the transformation itself. Because she is the guardian of transformation, so I kept thinking about like cocoon, wrapping, cyclone, sort of like an orbital spiraling energy. And also, this helps with the composition as well. Because everything starts to guide your eye back to the center. Everything is kind of orbiting around that focal point. And that's the moment I want you to look at. That's the juice of the piece. Because if I put something really interesting off the corner, then it starts competing for attention. And then the image becomes chaotic in the wrong way. So I am just trying to make sure everything supports that center moment. Everything is working toward that focal point. That's why they call it a focal point. Yeah, right now I'm experimenting again with that texture and atmosphere, trying to make it seamless. And as you can see here, I'm blending these two elements together, and so the experimentation now becomes part of the piece and it looks like it supports the piece. You know, I want that shadow water feeling to feel a little more ghostly, so I'm adding a little more atmosphere, making it a little more gray, purple toned, wrapping it around the forms, almost like a shadowy smoke trail. And if you're new, I just want to set expectations a little bit. I'm not really going to be talking the entire time, you know, because a lot of it is kind of boring. You know, I'm zooming in, zooming out, erasing, redrawing them again, Control Z, as you can see, right? It's just, ooh, that was kind of a rap. Control Z, as you can see. But yeah, I don't want to force commentary to fill silence. If there's nothing meaningful in my head or interesting in that moment, I'd rather just let us sit in the process. But I will chime in on really important moments when I'm doing something cool, kind of like what you just saw, right? I was playing with some texture, some reference, and also the blending modes, and also the filter gallery. So I'll always kind of lock in on those moments and tell you what I'm thinking about, why I'm doing it. And cool when I'm sharing a tip. And yeah, if you've been around for a minute, I love to experiment with texture, assets. Sometimes I'll try even 3D. Yeah, I think it just keeps it really fun and eliminates redundancy, so every piece kind of has its own flavor. And we have timestamps, so you can kind of navigate around on what you want to see. But yeah, I'm gonna let this sit for a bit, let it breathe, let you guys watch the rendering and the process and seeing where it naturally wants to go next, and I'll check back soon with the next part. everyone, welcome back, and here's the progress of the piece so far. I think it's looking great, and I'm about to do something kind of cool, and so I wanted to chime in here. And so I wanted some more texture with this image, right? So far I've been developing the base a lot, and as I mentioned earlier, I wanted some more kind of like swirling Eye of the Hurricane texture to embody a little bit of like water and shadow. And so I have this image here of a sort of cyclone-ish, I don't know the right water terminology, but yeah, it goes around in a circle. And I really love the bubbles and all the kind of water streams that I had there. I kind of put it in my program, and I color picked that color in the image, and I made it into a selection. And so you probably see me do this a lot. This is one of the main tools I love doing in my art when I am experimenting. And so I use color range here, and your program probably has something similar. I don't really like the magic wand that much because it takes a while to kind of like hand pick everything. And so look for a kind of a mass color picker tool. Again, I'm in Photoshop, so I'm using color range. And so I am putting it on top of my image, and as you can see, it automatically adds like this really nice texture against all the foundation that I did. And so I spent quite some time, like 40 minutes, working on that initial foundation, but getting the colors right. Because if you add texture on top of a bad foundation, it will still look bad because the foundation is called the foundation for a reason, right? And so when you guys are doing this, make sure the bones of it look really good. And so anything you add on top makes it like 10 times better. Think of it like a pizza. If your bread and sauce sucks, expired, it smells, even if you add the best cheese and pepperoni, you will throw up. And so, right? And so make sure that your sauce and bread is not expired. And so in terms of art, make sure your foundation, the kind of perspective, the color, the values, they all look pretty decent before you add the glitz and glamours, right? And so as you can see here, I'm erasing parts that I don't like. I am softening up this texture. It may look too, it was too photo textured, right? And so I'm really good at this where I can kind of massage the photo texture into my painting, and that's kind of my style. It's like a painterly with some photo bashing. I have done this for like 15 years, and I really like it. And this is also from my training in the industry. And so before, I worked on video games and movies and stuff like that, and I was tasked to make images to help sell a scene, and half the time they are live action, and I really want to like that to look amazing. And so they gave me some photo assets, they gave me 3D models. I looked for photo assets and also 3D models on the internet, and I was trying to compose a scene and paint a scene and make all the elements look cohesive and synergized. And so that's where kind of like my workflow comes from. It's like a embodiment of my whole journey. And so right now I'm using some cool cloud brushes for water. Oh, this is one of my big secrets. I think I mentioned this on a video like a year and a half ago. I think it's called like 10 secret painterly techniques or whatever. And the last kind of big point that I did was I use cloud brushes for everything. I use it for tree leaves. I use it for dirt. I use it for grass. I use it for bushes. And here I am using it for the water texture, which is awesome. So if you guys haven't tried that out, definitely add that to your next experimentation cycle, right? And so you saw that I'm like A-Bing back and forth, my texture that I put in here, and also right now I just turned it off and tried my own. And so I'm constantly going back and forth, experimenting. I think the goal here is that I have an intention. I want texture around like this water sequence, and so I am thinking about different ways I can get there. And this is a great way to just experiment. Usually when you guys think of experimenting, there are a million different avenues to go, right? Ooh, should I do like 3D posing? Should I do photo texture? Should I try some like stock imagery or some photo filter? There's like a million ways, right? And so the way I kind of like streamline it, I just think about my intention. What do I want? What do I want to do? And by kind of having an intention and an objective, then you think, okay, how can I get there? Ooh, you know what? I'm gonna try cloud brushes. Maybe I will look up images of that water texture, the bubbles, and I will kind of put that in my image. And so right now, I am kind of trying to design a shape with this, right? Because with the water foundation, it feels really soft. It feels very like round, right? And so I want to keep that shape essence, and I don't want to mess with that too much. And so with this water stream texture, maybe I want to give it a different shape, maybe a more I usually call it a dragony shape, where it has some curves and points. It kind of brings your eye around. It feels dynamic. And so I'm trying a different kind of a shape language with this new element. And so yeah, that's kind of essentially what I'm doing. And I think this is a great way to break down illustration, especially if you want to be detailed and have a lot of, I guess, chaos, but still keep it like coherent and consistent. I just try to give every element of my piece a character. And so if I have water, think about how you want the water to feel. And if you have water ripples and bubbles and water texture, think about how you want that to feel. And it should maybe complement or contrast, right? Ooh, that's sick. And so I am, again, going back and forth. Maybe I'll have a mix between the two of the photo texture. I love all like that, the juicy, organic kind of water splash, right? And I think this is why I love using and experimenting with photo texture so much, is because photos, these ones that I'm using are taken in real life, and we exist in this world. And so we maybe identify this as a very natural phenomenon. It looks very organic. It looks easy. It looks just wow, right? It adds that kind of immediate kind of immediate texture that looks really nice. I think it's because we kind of connect to it already in real life. And so I'm trying to be conscious of the fact not to overdo it. I try and just be really intentional about it. I take my time. I am just slowly adding because I don't want to take away from the focal point. Remember, the focal point is where I want all the action to be. And so all of this is just really supporting that. And so you'll see me right now just experiment with the different sizes. Maybe there is some water splash in the foreground. And so I am just seeing how much depth I want from the viewer and the subject to be. Do I want to really immerse the viewer and have some in the foreground, right? Or do I just want this a little more kind of flatter? I wanted to point out an area which I really love that I was trying to do. Again, I am trying to do shadow water. And so as you can see, there's this kind of like black blob, like around the teal, right? That kind of like, wow, it looks like a shadow, right? I'm trying to have some like pigments of shadow blobs, if you call it, in the water. And so it feels like a mixture. It feels like a fusion of, oh, I remember, of like ink swirling in the water. I think that's really cool. And so I just try to get that effect. Maybe there is some element in the water, some little ink shadow vibe, right? And so yeah, right now, as you can see, I put back the photo texture, and I kept both. I kept my cloud experimentation with as a foundation, and then now I'm adding the texture on top, and I am not just like leaving it there. I'm purposely cutting in and out and designing it to fit my image. Ooh, awesome. So as I mentioned before, how much depth I want. Right here, I enlarged some of the bubbles and I added a Gaussian blur to add some depth of field. Because if this is, depending on the camera, right? Certain things like closer to you are blurred. And I definitely am trying to go for that cinematic look with a lot of the pieces in this book. I want to immerse the viewer into the energy, right? I love to just I was thinking about this. I love to make images that feel like it captures a moment. Like, boom, that's a moment, like a snapshot, a cinematic painterly snapshot. And I think that kind of encapsulate a lot of the work in this book. They all feel like cinematic story snapshots mixed with like texture and experimentation and just energy, right? And so yeah, as you can see, this piece is really coming along. I think this is one of the pieces I was really excited for because it was just like flowing. Pun intended. It just felt like it was working. So I was really happy with that. And so as you can see, I'm constantly trying to reinforce the composition. I am drawing that ellipse, right? I am trying to wrap it around the focal point. And so you'll see me, and with any piece, well, you guys should think about your focal point and always think about how whatever you're adding supports it. If it takes it away, maybe reassess that. But the goal is to think about that moment or the part of the image or that area where you want the viewer to look and you want to support that. And that's why like radiating lines work. That's a very kind of like old school technique where, you know, all the lines converge. Like Leyendecker, you know, he had a lot of pieces, like very editorial pieces for like magazines and books and stuff like that, where he had lines just point essentially to the focal point. So yeah, I think this piece is looking really good. Again, I am trying to reinforce that. I am wrapping around, constantly wrapping around, and seeing what else I can throw in the water. Polluting. Ooh, okay. Right now I am playing with mixer brush. This is something I use in every one of my paintings. I love the mixer brush tool. It just blends everything together. Again, I'm a very like I love to use all the tools of digital art, right? If there's a mixer brush, there's a blur, there's a filter, I will kind of just try it all because you don't know what you like unless you try it. And who knows, it could be a part of your workflow. So I just use a mixer brush a little bit right there. Constantly flipping the canvas because that provides like a fresh take. And as you can see, I am constantly flipping my canvas. I almost do it obsessively. I think it goes back to my original intention of I always want to keep my eyes fresh. I always want to keep my brain stimulated to avoid any like lull, mindless rendering. I always want to keep my brain engaged. And so I'm constantly trying new things, experimenting, flipping the canvas to, all right, what stands out? It essentially is like a fresh restart for my brain to find out what areas need the most work. And right now I zoomed in and am just like figuring out a little more detail on the character. I've been working on the background and the foundation of that for a long time. And right now I am just making some movement on the actual characters in the focal point. But yeah, again, I will let you guys enjoy the process and I will check back soon with the next tip. Hey everyone, welcome back, and this piece is looking great so far. I added some more elements to bring your eyes to the center, as well as this bright beam. Now you have to look there. It's like the brightest thing I think in the piece. But yeah, this is essentially kind of what I was going for, this transformational moment, and I thought of like maybe like a heartstring, a heart beam, like the thread, the eye of the storm, right? So that kind of my intention there. And fun fact, usually I like to put something on while I record, so it's not just like silence. And I have kind of water ambient noise, so very fitting. So I think right now is a great time to talk a little bit about the art journey. Again, I mentioned with every video tutorial, I love to just talk a little bit about some advice that can help you along your creative journey. Something in addition to the process tutorial, right? And so I was talking about how attention is literally your whole entire life. What you focus on, what you put your attention on, just shapes your reality and the person you are, and especially with this explosion of like short form and content making, like everyone is a content creator now. There's a lot of just audio and visual noise, and sometimes it's really easy to just get lost in the mix, right? You just feel like this image here. And I have been experiencing a lot of that since my return to social media. I think I returned like 5 weeks ago, like a month ago, and I've been trying to navigate my way forward, and I've been noticing just, a lot of these apps and a lot of these companies are getting better at just keeping your attention and like, ooh, right? Like maybe rage baiting or just like in general. I think we're basically more consumed in social media than ever. And I think it's almost by design. Because essentially, your attention is your currency. These companies invest billions and billions and billions of dollars on research and ways to keep your attention. And it's a little sad, but our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter, especially with the short form content. Now we can't watch a movie without being on our phones. And it's kind of funny. I learned that movies are actually dumbing down their scripts because they know people are on their phones while they watch the movie. And if they can't understand the plot, like a dumbed down version of the plot while being on their phones, then they're forced to make changes. They're freaking crazy? And so executives and like these studios, they look at the script and they have their notes like, hey, we need you to have like a dumbed down, easy to listen to version, easy digestible. And so it's like the cat went home. Essentially, I feel like that's what's gonna be our movies now. Spider-Man kills enemy. Wait, what was that? Yeah, they're gonna have to pare down more and more and more as we're on our phones more and more and more, which is kind of sad. But I think I'm just gonna give you some tools that's helped me try to take back the attention for myself, right? Because at the end of the day, you are on your path, you have goals, you have ambitions, you want to do something with your life, I think. And so I think a lot of us have aspirations, right? You want to eventually maybe draw for a living. Maybe you want to work at a studio. Maybe you want to work for yourself. And that's going to require some time and energy. And that's something you're probably maybe leaking out because of the current temperature of the world, right? And sometimes I find myself feeling a lot better the less social media I consume, which is crazy how our phones have so much emotional pull, and it's just like a little device, but it causes a lot of stress, anxiety, and anger, and depression, and all the above. And I think it's time that we just remember that we have our own lives, and we should divert the attention back on our path. So this is something I've tried very recently. I learned this from a Mel Robbins podcast. I love her. I think she's great and she's real. And she had a guest on, and she talked about how every morning, immediately, you set 3 words of how you want to feel that day. Because in the morning, you're so susceptible to everything, right? And a lot of us reach for our phones before we're awake, right? We are already like basically coming out of the sleep trying to find our phones, and we are bombarded with notifications, and already we're letting the outside world dictate on how we feel. And I think there's some studies in science that say like, yo, the first like chapter of your day, like the first hour or whatever, is the most important and set the tone for the rest of the day. And so if you are already consumed by like negativity and news and all this crap before you even actually wake up, it already sets that tone for the rest of the day. And so you lose energy and you're sluggish by the end of the day, and you feel anxious and you feel all these emotions, and that could be a contributing factor. And so I've been trying to fight the urge as much as I can. I used to be better at this, but now since I'm back on social media, it's been a little harder. I want to like check my phone, right? And so I've been really trying to fight that urge, and I make a conscious decision. I remember like, yo, what's important to me right now is this first chapter of my day. How do I want to feel? And I set 3 intention words. And today, I think I said, I want to be focused, I want to be energetic, and I want to be kind/compassionate. And also I have a 4th one that I say every single day. I want to have fun today because we could all use some more fun. But yeah, my 3 words today are focused, energetic, and kind/compassionate. So what this does, it sets the intention for the day for you. Because if you don't make that conscious decision, there's the chance that that could be hijacked by these companies or anyone, right? And so how that helps me is when I'm going about my day and I'm feeling a type of way, right? We all have those days. What's great about this is it kind of sets like an assignment for the rest of the day. And so I feel myself automatically going back to, okay, how did I want to feel today? And I think about those words: focused, energetic, kind/compassionate. Am I feeling that way right now? No. Okay, how can I get there? That's what my conscious decision was, not before I might have got hijacked. And so I find myself coming back to those energetically positive words, and it helps keep my attention there. It almost gives me like a North Star, like a little compass. And so if I find myself negatively drifting or maybe judging or something like that, I'm like, wait a minute, Why is my attention going there? That's not how I want to feel today. I want to go back to my 3 words that I chose. And I think you can insert these words at any point in the day. So I found this helped me so much where, say I had a really tough morning, right? Maybe I was late. Maybe something bad happens and we all have bad mornings. I take a breather and I recognize, I'm aware that I just spent like the first few hours just ruminating and anxious and all these things, but you can make the decision. I'm like, all right, I am not gonna let this mess up my day. I have 10 hours left before I go to bed. I don't want to feel like I did for the next 10 hours. So you think about, all right, for the next 10 hours, I want to feel awesome. I want to feel focused and happy. I want to feel joyful, whatever your words may be. And so I also find it's like a soft restart as well. If you find yourself in a spiral, if you find yourself ruminating or in a negative thought loop, it's a great way to be like, stop. I don't want to feel like this. You make that conscious decision. Yo, you know what? For the rest of the day, I'm gonna have fun. And I think it changes your whole aura. It changes kind of your perception and your mindset. It changes your North Star for the day. So that is something I would try if you guys are feeling like your attention is freaking everywhere. Maybe tomorrow, before you reach for your phone in the morning, right when you wake up, just envision 3 words of how you want to feel that day. And maybe different days require a different energy from you, right? Like maybe I want to feel like a fucking badass today because I got to present whatever, right? But I think try that out at the beginning of the day. Before you reach your phone, think about, all right, today I'm going to feel this, this, and this, and I'm going to have fun. I'm going to make this my day. And whatever happens, whatever's on my phone, whatever crap Sally wants to say about me, I don't care. Also, I don't know why I thought of Sally. It sounds like an ancient name. Sorry if your name is Sally. I'm just saying. But yeah, no one's gonna ruin your day because you are the center of your own experience. You are the center of your own reality and your own day. So stop letting other factors have so much say in that. You, at the top of the day, say how you want to freaking feel. And in addition to the 3 words, I've been practicing something called the return loop. I think often, you will get distracted. We do have a monkey mind after all, right? We're not quite evolved past that yet. Our mind just wanders, right? It just steals our attention and stuff happens. But I've been trying to catch myself more and kind of return home. And every time you do this, I heard that it's sort of like a bicep curl for your mind. Say you were working on a piece, you felt really inspired, and then all of a sudden you're thinking about something terrible that happened on the news, right? Like out of nowhere, out of your control. I think the return loop is you notice that and you gently steer it back to what you were originally doing. And boom, 1 rep bicep curl. And try not to force it, right? You want to do it kind of more gradual, softer, and with compassion. And so I think before, when I get distracted, I'm like, what the hell? I'm supposed to be working on this. I keep thinking about this. And so I think the practice is, number 1, you notice that you're distracted. Like, oh shit, why am I thinking about this thing? And number 2, don't judge it. It's okay. We all get distracted. And number 3, return to what matters. And the more you do that, the better you get at keeping your attention on what you want to do, on what brings you joy, what lights you up, and what you actually want to care about. And I think this is a lifelong journey, right? This is a lifelong skill. And not until just now, I feel like I'm slowly improving on this. As I'm coming back to social media, I do feel my attention everywhere. I feel like my mood is a little unstable, more than usual. And so I'll be like, okay, why am I focusing on these things or these people that don't really add joy to my life, right? It's just maybe remnants of the past, or maybe some floating doomsday scenario, whatever it may be. I think we all tend to spiral because we all have a negativity bias to survive. And so I've been getting better at like, whoa, all right, steer it back to my painting, steer it back to my gym session, steer it back to walking the dog, whatever your activity is. But I think what's really helped me, in addition to that, is visualization. Thinking about, where do I actually want to be? Instead of judging myself all the time, being in a shell. Instead of contracting, I want to open up. I want to feel more in flow. I want to think about, all right, how do I want next year to be? How do I want to feel tomorrow? Where do I want to live next year? And I think that act had the better intention than getting your attention hijacked on some weird crap. Instead, you're actually thinking about your future. You're kind of putting yourself in your future self, feeling good emotion, being in the place where you're happy, right? And one thing that has really, really, really helped me since coming back is purging. Because since I've come back, I'm like, whoa, these are all the accounts I used to follow. These are the people I maybe used to talk to, maybe once my friends, now not, or whatever the case may be. And I find that purging really kind of helps clear energy out and allows for new things in. And so this practice, I was like, okay, what do I want to see on my feed now? What are my interests now? What accounts do I want to follow? What do I like, right? We're not the same person as we were last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but we are still following or consuming this content or these accounts, but we are ever changing. Also, the accounts we follow, the creators are also always changing. And so I'm making it a yearly practice. Near the end of the year, I'm going to kind of like reassess where I am, who I am, what do I want to consume? Because again, what you place your attention on becomes your reality. And so if you follow all news cycles, right, all drama accounts, then your life is going to be consumed by news and drama. That's just the way it goes. That's what you're experiencing. That's what your attention is on. And so I think, especially in today's world, we have to curate our own experience. What do you want to see? What do you like? What don't you like? What do you want more of and less of? And especially with today's climate, I find it way more helpful to maximize joy and minimize negativity. And so I think that can be a really fun practice for you guys too. Kind of play God for a second. How do I want my life to be, right? Like, what accounts do you want to follow? What are your interests now? Like, just try and craft your life, because if you don't consciously craft your own life, then your energy and your attention will be crafted by someone else. And that's a little scary. And after the purge, I find myself feeling a little more in my own pocket and getting less hijacked. And you can apply this to almost anything in your life, even clothes. I think a lot of people are keeping some stuff around and they never wear it, but they always have a thought, I might wear this one day. Oh, maybe I want to wear this next year. And then 5 years later, maybe I want to wear this next year. I only talk from experience, because there are some things that look so cool that I love, but I never wear, and I always say, I should wear this someday. I should wear this soon, and I never do. But having that in your closet, having these accounts you used to follow, whatever it may be, the old energetic version of you, by keeping that around, you're not leaving any space for the new person to come in, for the new person to emerge. And it's a little scary, because I think a lot of us love to keep things that was very important to us, or things that, maybe, right? Or technology, or old devices, or sentimental stuff. But I feel like a really liberating practice is to think about the essentials, the most important things that you care about, and trying to build a life around that instead of just hoarding and collecting a whole bunch of crap. And with the Los Angeles fires last year, the fires was near my house like a mile away. Oh shit. So I was forced to evacuate, and it was so interesting and so crazy to me, like to experience that, because I have never had to do that, right? And in the moment of survival mode, my brain just locks in on the most important things that I want to take with me. Because what if the house burnt down? And so it's crazy. I just took my computer, my laptop, my tablet, my pets, my favorite piece of clothes, and some photos. And honestly, that was it. I didn't take almost anything else. I just took the things I really, really needed, and it really showed me what was important. And everything else is just a bonus, a luxury, or just adding some more crap to my life. So having that experience made me realize I want to be more intentional on things that I buy, on things I consume, of things that I want in my life. And so my intention is where I want to be, rather than some crap. And I think that's a good practice that I recommend for everyone. Purging every year. Products, apps, technology, even people that are just like adding maybe a negative value to your life. Like, have more of a circle that brings joy and supports you and empowers you than talks crap about you or ruins your day, right? Fucking Sally. Sally! Sorry. But you get what I mean. So be more intentional about the things you bring into your orbit. And that way you can keep more of your attention on things that matter, people that matter, experiences that matter. Identity grows. And this one hits kind of hard, because if you focus on fear, you become fearful. You focus on comparison, you become insecure. And this was a little scary for me, because I've lived like 30 years, like, oh, fuck, I've been a nervous wreck this whole time, and like insecure, and I'm anxious and all this stuff. But knowing that it's okay, you have your whole entire life ahead of you, and at any point in your life, you can make the decision to steer your attention back toward things that matter. Think about the rest of your days and how you want to operate. I think it's just the awareness of wanting something else rather than what you're having is the win. And so, as I mentioned before, things that are helping me are at the top of the day, I set 3 intention words before I do anything. Think about how I want to feel. Think about how I want to operate during the day. And if I notice my attention going elsewhere, I gently steer it back to what I'm doing. And that is a mental bicep curl for my mind. And periodically purging accounts, people, things, objects, experiences even, of what you want less of. And this is not like, okay, I'm gonna cut everyone off and just be happy with my pets in the mountain with no internet, right? This is like, I'm just trying to give you some tools to combat your attention being hijacked, your energy being stolen, and just reclaiming a little more of that intention and agency. I think it's just going to balance and help steer your attention to focus on what really matters to you. So yeah, try that out. Hopefully some of you give it a shot and see how you feel. Hopefully it helps. And let's jump back to this piece. I think it looks great so far. We did a lot of rendering, but now I'm going to experiment with some more photos. And so I found this really cool texture. It was like, I'm not really sure. It was like a water ripple, but being reflected by light. And I really like the shape of the light and what it's doing. It feels like a particle explosion in a way. And so you saw me kind of play with the curves, trying to maybe isolate the light a little bit. Now I'm playing with the blending modes. I am kind of scrubbing through lighten, color dodge, overlay, and stuff like that. I think I wanted to add a little more, I guess, contrast with the colors. It's very blue. It's very sea, dark, which is kind of what I was intending. But hey, why not try to add a little more warmth to it, right? And so I just had an inkling, an intuition here to try it. I don't know if I'll keep it, but I think the practice is to, if you have something that you want to do, just try it and see if you like it. And so I'm adjusting the color of the sparks right now, or the reflection of the power. I guess I did not use it. Again, yeah, the practice is to just try it out when you have an inkling of something. I tried it, I didn't like it, so just scrapped it and moved on. As you can see, I clarified more of the shadow shapes. I made it kind of like manta looking, or like shadows where it's darker on the outside, but inside it has more of a reflection, maybe kind of like an shadowy octopus legs kind of vibe. Yeah, I think it looks great so far. I also added some of that on the outside, radiating, adding some contact shadow, some cast shadow, just trying to add as much kind of realism as I can, because I know this piece is quite stylized, or the characters are, and the background and all the moving parts have a lot of dimension to them, and so I'm just trying to find a nice balance between those two styles. I really like having like stylized character mixed with kind of like realistic-ish color and texture. I think it is a nice combination, you know? And so I'll let you guys enjoy the process a little more, and then we'll check back soon. I think we got one more, and then we'll close out. All right, welcome to the final check-in. I think this is one of my favorite parts of any image, is near the end, the last 10%, where it's basically done and I am just experimenting with some last minute, maybe color effects, maybe texture effects, and this can really help finish my image. I think sometimes, or at the beginning, I have trouble closing out. It would always get pretty close, but not close enough to post the image, right? And so over time, I learned some really fun ways of experimenting and adding that last polish and making it still feel exciting. I'm doing some nice soft light and overlay on this right now, and I love doing this to help harmonize the colors. As you can see here, I have another layer, like a new layer, and I set the soft light, and I have an airbrush, and I'm just kind of moving my brush around, just trying to add some excitement or some vignetting or some kind of like a fusing of the colors, making it coherent and consistent. Ooh, it's nice. Yeah, as you can see here, I'm like vignetting it a little bit so we can focus back to our focal point. I really love that that thread beam cutting in because it's kind of thin, but the whole piece feels enormous. It feels very like whoosh, monstrous, right? As you saw there, I was playing with some color adjustments. Usually, I like to go to auto color, depending on your program. Usually, auto colors analyzes your image and tries to give you another result that the program thinks is better or whatever. And it's up to you, the creator, on what you think is better. And right now I'm gonna play with some texture effects, and this is where the fun is. And I did this for almost every image in my piece. Ooh, look at that. That's fucking sick. That one is posterized, and it helps kind of simplify a lot of my values, a lot of everything. Dang, that's so sick. And so if you saw what I did there, I posterized it, but I only took the black parts to emphasize the shadow shape. And it gave it a lot more clarity, because I think before it felt massaged with the water, and I wanted to pop that out more. And so posterizing is something I love doing, and right now I'm playing with other filters. And I think I may have mentioned recently, one of my big themes for this book is dissolve. I just released my announcement for my book, and there's a lot of dissolve and particles, especially with that first character, that wisp is all dissolve. And so dissolve is a huge theme for this book. And so I'm trying to add some particles here and there, giving it that dissolve feel, because a lot of my book, the concept in this world, is a bit of like my own Matrix, a little retro nostalgia mixed with fantasy. And so there's a lot of inspirations from the computer, and I think a computer pixel, I think a pixel and dissolve. And so I always try to add a little bit of that element inside all the images in my book. Again, your program might have a different set of filters, of image processing, of different filter galleries that you can play with, but I am always a big believer in being really open-minded and trying everything and seeing what sticks, right? Because these are just tools, but at the end of the day, you are the creator. You decide what you keep and what aesthetic you're going for, or what you want your piece to say. You know, it's all up to you. And right now, I am adding some color dodge. Woo! Yes, I still do it. Not as much anymore because my new love is dissolve. But yeah, you know what? That's kind of funny. The last 10 years was essentially color dodge. And this upcoming 10 years, or say, will be dissolve. Yeah, that's kind of fun to think about, you know, as we grow as people. We have more experiences, and we are just having a more repertoire of things we're inspired by, and you never know what you'll discover. Yeah, so again, just try everything. Try almost everything in your program of choice, right? If there is a feature you want to try out, why not? Right now, I am drawing some rim light on the hair, you know, just adding a little bit of a... This also helps with the silhouette, you know, because they are so immersed in the scene that I want to kind of cut out the shape a little more. I want to give them a little more definition, and so I am trying to kind of carve it out with lights. Yeah, near the end, I am just kind of perfecting all the shapes, especially in my focal point. For the most of the image, I'm experimenting a lot. I'm making some big artistic decision. I don't really love to spend so much time like rendering, because what if the part that I render don't really make it near the end after the experimentation? So right now, when all the dust is settled, I can kind of choose which areas need the most work, the most help, just making things more aesthetic. I know you guys are gonna look during this direction. And if you're new here, usually with my Patreon tutorial, I do the bulk of it here. Like I show you the meat of it, where you guys are gonna learn the most, right? The most tricks and stuff like that. And then on my own time for the final polish of the book, I'll probably spend a few more hours, you know, making it really sexy for print, right? Because I think when you print something, it feels permanent, it's going on your wall. I want the viewer to be really kind of looking around. Like, you know, your favorite musician, you pay a lot closer attention to the words they say and the sound they use and their phrasing and stuff like that. And so I think of art in the same way. I feel like the people who are going to buy the book, or the fans, the community, are going to spend some time just looking around and appreciating the image and the decision making and stuff like that. Right now, I'm using some mixer brush, as I mentioned before, to help kind of soften things up. These characters look very, like, yeah, they're pretty stylized, and they could feel like a cutout sometimes. And so I'm just adding a little bit of shading, a little bit of mixing the mixer brush to help glue the image together. And then at the very end, I usually like to copy my whole entire image and add some cinematic effects like Gaussian blur, as you see here, trying to, again, steer focus on the focal point. Yeah, I hope you like this piece. This is the very first video of our senior year event. I had so much fun. I'm excited. There's so much more to come, and each video tutorial will have VO. And so you will definitely learn some cool tips and tricks along the way and see more of this book as time goes on. There's gonna be some environment scenes and some character scenes and story scenes like this one is the bulk of it. There's some tutorials coming up that are like 4-5 hours. And so I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you so much for being part of my Patreon. I'm super excited to close out the rest of this year with you guys. There's some amazing things coming, and I just love this book so much. So I'll see you guys later. Bye. I hope you guys enjoyed that. After Patreon, I usually spend a few more hours on details and polish before it hits the book or the print. And now I get to kind of zone out, put on a show, and just render, right? Something I mentioned not to do. But hey, I did all the work, right, up front, and so I can kind of vibe now because art is enjoyable. Be sure to check out Senior Year, my final Patreon event before it's over, and I'll see you next time. 2 hands, still sleeping. What a nice life.